Although it's okay to live in the moment and not think about the future, it is not a lifestyle that's sustainable. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I manage my time in order to create an enjoyable life for myself, and how I set myself up for a secure and stable future. The road isn't easy, but it's not impossible. And I don't guarantee that your life will automatically change by watching this video, but if you make it to the end, I promise that your perspective will change enough to make a real difference in your life. Let's jump right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is how to manage your time to ensure that you improve your future. Everybody knows that they have to do homework, they have to do tasks, they have to do their job in order to improve their life. But telling somebody to do tasks like wash dishes isn't the way to get them to do it. In fact, it's a lot easier for people to do tasks when there's a reward at the end of it. So the first thing to do is to split actions into two separate buckets. Things that add stress to our life and things that don't add stress to our life. And while you're thinking about what goes into which bucket, it's not a coincidence that the things that add stress is where all the rewards and challenges are, and the things that don't add stress into our lives is where procrastination is. While talking about this, I want you to realize that it's not necessarily fair to mark these things as good versus bad, and it's more important to just see the actions for what they are. Some actions that we do are aimed to improve our careers, and other actions are meant to improve our mental wellness. So the first important thing to know, the things that add stress into our lives give opportunity for rewards. When you're struggling in school or you're having issues with a relationship, it means that you're challenging yourself. You're probably thinking something like, Joemer, what are you talking about? I'm miserable in school, or I'm miserable in my relationship. How is this a challenge? How is this even helping me? In fact, it bothers me so much and gives me such a negative experience that I'm just going to leave. Well, take a break with this video, listen to my perspective. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. If you're struggling in school, whether you quit or not, you're making progress to figure out what you want to do in life. If you're having issues in a relationship, whether it works out or not, you learn more about what you want in a relationship. There are a lot of negative things that happen in the world. The trick is to not let it get to you. Don't let negative things attach to us longer than it has to. Shake it off and keep your head up high. Now, what do we do if we can't shake off negative experiences, or if we have a really bad experience? That's where the second bucket comes in. The bucket of things that de-stress our lives. Hanging out with your friends, family that doesn't annoy you, or doing your favorite hobby are all in this bucket. If you feel like the action is frictionless, like you don't have to force yourself to do the action, chances are you can drop that thought into this mental bucket. Now, this is the second important thing. I want you to see this bucket as an emergency bucket. Try not to reach into it, but if there's any reason like you're having a bad day or you're not even feeling well, dig into this mental bucket and find something to do. Life is always going to stress us out. The challenges that we take are always going to stress us out. It's up to us to make sure that we're taking that stress and pushing it into a proper emotional outlet. In other words, we're trying to make sure that when we're stressed, we don't lash out at other people or spread the negativity. What I just described is called emotional hygiene. In the same way that we clean our rooms, we should clean up the mental mess that we created throughout the day. And if we don't do this, we end up with something similar to a messy room. Our brains become disorganized and it's a lot harder to sift through things. In general, it becomes a lot harder to be productive. Outside of productivity, it also helps us with frustration. When we aren't holding on to a lot of negative emotions, it becomes easier to move throughout the day without being sad or angry. Additionally, letting go of those negative emotions gives us more space in our head to think about other things. It gives us space to be happy. It gives us space to think about all the other things on our agenda. And just like cleaning a room, it doesn't have to happen every single day, but try to do it at least once a week. Try your best to do some emotional hygiene. You'll be surprised how easy your day can become. Now that we talked about what the two buckets are, I want you to try to think of 1 to 3 things that you can put into each bucket. So for the bucket of things that stress us out, think about goals, expectations, projects, anything that you necessarily don't want to do. And again, for the second bucket, for things that don't stress us out, think about anything that's easy for you to do, things that you want to do. Pause the video here and come up with your list really quickly. Now that we have buckets with things inside it, this will be your general workflow. When you feel like you're ready to be productive, grab something from the first bucket. And if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, put the first bucket down and grab something from the second bucket. It's super easy, but you rinse and repeat this quick and easy workflow. With enough practice, Doing this will help you organize your time so that you can not only improve your future, but you can also enjoy life in the present. Now, is it really that easy? Yes and no. Yes, because it's a simple 2-step process. And no, because there's a bunch of common pitfalls which I'm going to go over so that you don't make the same mistakes that I did while creating this method. The first pitfall is going into the second bucket when you feel inconvenienced. Again, it's important to remember and imagine that this is your emergency bucket. The idea is to use it when you're feeling overwhelmed and you've already put the effort into trying to be productive. We shouldn't try to reach into this bucket when we barely even tried or we haven't put in all of our effort. It's hard to focus on challenging things. In general, our brains don't want to stay in that environment. It's the reason why when we're working on a project or we're doing our job and we feel bored, we'll distract ourselves by picking up our phones or procrastinating. And so it's completely normal. Lots of times you're not procrastinating because you're being lazy. You're procrastinating because your brain isn't entertained. But that's where this method comes in. If you start to relate the second bucket that's filled with all the rewards and the things that you want to do with putting effort into the first bucket, you get this nice dynamic where you start wanting to do the things in the first bucket because you know you'll be able to do things in the second bucket later on. So it's normal to procrastinate, but try to remember that if you don't procrastinate, you'll see positive results in whatever goal you aim for. Outside of being efficient, why would we use this method? The answer is that life is all about balance. And sometimes it can be hard to figure out that balance. If good times aren't supported by a strong foundation, parts of our life will start falling apart. It's important to make sure that when we let loose, relax, and end up falling, that we have something soft to land on. And letting loose doesn't mean throwing caution to the wind. It means doing what's best for you now and for the future. Ask yourself, if you were to look at yourself and look at what you were doing 5 years from now, would you be proud of yourself? Would you be glad that you're able to experience something and that you're able to relax? Would you be happy with the amount of hours that you put in to achieve your goal? Lots of times, if I ever asked myself this question, I never got a surge of motivation because I wanted Joemer 5 years from now to look back and be proud of myself. But what it did do was that it gave me a different perspective. It made me realize that I didn't plan out my 5 years, let alone my next year, let alone my next month. And sometimes bringing awareness to the fact that we don't know what we're doing for our future is enough to push us to improve ourselves. And while we're figuring out this plan, it almost feels like a juggling act because life is that hard to balance. Specifically, life is hard to balance because we don't have the stability or the flexibility in order to do what we want whenever we want, which is why money is a magnet that attracts anyone. Money is one of the strongest sources of power that can make our life 10 times better. It allows us to travel the world, buy as much food as we want, or buy our dream car. So something that I want you to think about while you have this 2-bucket method is this question. How do we make more money in order to be happy in the future and be happy while we're walking towards that? When you ask yourself this question, you may get a similar answer to me. It's a loaded question and you might just say what I said, I don't know. And although there's a giant question mark for how, we at least know what direction we need to go in. We at least have a workflow that we can do in order to go in the right direction. You do something productive that may stress you out, you unload that stress with things that you enjoy. And while it's great and all that we figured out how to do things to be productive and how to manage our time in a way that's going to improve our future, we should talk about living in the present and enjoying your life now. Sometimes people are dissuaded from doing things that improve their lives because it makes them feel like they're not living their life now to their fullest potential. But I'm here to tell you that these things aren't mutually exclusive. Living life to our fullest potential includes having fun and working hard towards something. And it's important to know that we will always have time to do both. People talk about how they'll never be a certain age again, but I believe that when we do this, we are limiting ourselves. We are limiting our mindsets by saying that we have to do this because we're a certain age and that we'll never have this chance again. We end up sounding like we're only living till we're 40. This mentality makes us feel like we have to enjoy our life like it's ending soon, when in fact most of us are nowhere close to that point in life. Even someone who's 60 still has 15 to 20 years to live. And yes, they may not do things that are physically the same as someone who's 20 or 30 years old, but I'm sure that at any age there's a way to find fulfillment. There are ways to enjoy your life and to reward yourself so that you feel like you're enjoying your own life. So of course, live your life, enjoy experiences, go to the parties, hang out with friends, eat amazing food, but always put yourself first. Don't feel like you have to go to events because you have to, or feel like you have to go because you're missing out. It's not easy to say no, but you have to prioritize what's going to get you ahead. And this doesn't mean to just aim for things that are going to improve your career. It just means to evaluate the situation properly. If what's going to get you ahead is to de-stress and improve your mental health, then go out that night. And if what's going to get you ahead is staying in so that you could focus on studying, then muster up the courage to say no to whatever event there is that weekend and stay inside and study. The goal here is to end up at a point where you can relax, let loose, and not have to worry about stressors in our life. At this point, if you aren't sure how to roadmap your way towards your best life while having your best life, feel free to book a life coaching session with me. There will be a link in the description below. I'd be more than happy to help you out. If you like this video or would like to support me, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, stay productive, keep improving, and I will see you next Friday. Peace.